This is Minister Carnes. Welcome to another edition of Translation and Interpretation. There are many books that some people believe should be in the New Testament and the Old Testament canon, a collection of biblical writings. These books are referred to as pseudepigrapha books, meaning fake or false books, and apocryphal books, meaning hidden books. Before we can determine whether extra-biblical books should be a part of the current canon, we must have a standard to compare them against. That standard is the Old Testament. The simple methodology to determine if extra-biblical books should be a part of the Old Testament. Here are some questions you should ask. When was the extra-biblical book written? The date should be no later than the 1st century, BCE or BC. Is this extra-biblical book written in Hebrew? Is the extra-biblical book historical? Does it contradict the Old Testament law contained within the commandments? Does the extra-biblical book contradict the determination of days, years, seasons, and months as described in the Old Testament? Using Google AI search, here is a simple method to determine if extra-biblical books should be in our current New Testament Bible. Here are the questions you should ask. An analysis of the extra-biblical books associated with the New Testament makes it much easier to determine their authenticity. When was the extra-biblical New Testament book written? The date should not be later than the 2nd century CE. Does the extra-biblical New Testament book contradict the Old Testament law contained within the commandments? Is the extra-biblical book historical? Example number 1, the Book of Jasher. A Google search reveals the following. The Book of Jasher, mentioned in the Bible, is believed to be lost, not written on a specific date. While later texts use the same title, they are not the original biblical reference. The Sefer HaYashar, a Hebrew midrash, was supposedly first published in Naples in 1552. However, the oldest surviving copies date back to a later reprinting in Venice in 1625. This book should not be a part of the Old Testament. Example number 2, the Book of Adam and Eve. A Google search reveals the following. The Book of Adam and Eve, also known as the Life of Adam and Eve, or the First Book of Adam and Eve, is believed to have been written between the 1st and 5th centuries CE. It is an apocryphal text, meaning it's a non-canonical writing that expands on the biblical story of Adam and Eve. The original version is believed to have been written in a Semitic language, possibly Arabic, and later translated into Greek, Latin, and other languages. This writing should not be a part of the Old Testament because of its date. Example number 3, the First Book of Enoch. A Google search reveals the following. The First Book of Enoch is believed to have been written primarily between the 3rd century BCE and the 1st century CE. While some parts might be older, the complete book as we know it was likely compiled within that time frame. Scholars believe it was originally written in either Aramaic or Hebrew. This writing should not be a part of the Old Testament because it violates the Old Testament in its reckoning of days, years, seasons, and months. This can be proven using empirical data analysis. Example number 4, the Second Book of Enoch. A Google search reveals the following. The Second Book of Enoch, also known as the Book of the Secrets of Enoch, or Slavonic Enoch, is generally believed to have been written in the late 1st century CE. The only extant version is a Slavonic translation. However, evidence suggests that it was originally written in Greek. While the Slavonic text is a Christian work from the 7th century, it's based on an earlier Jewish work from the 1st century CE. This writing should not be a part of the Old Testament because of its date. Example number 5, First Maccabees. A Google search reveals the following. The book of First Maccabees, a historical account of the Maccabean revolt, was likely written around 100 BCE. This work is a part of the Intertestament. This writing should be a part of the biblical canon. Example number 6, the Apocalypse of Abraham. A Google search reveals the following. The Apocalypse of Abraham was likely written in the 1st or 2nd century CE, between 70 and 150 CE. This writing should not be part of the Old Testament canon due to its date. Example number 7, the Gospel of Judas Iscariot. A Google search reveals the following. The original Greek text of the Gospel of Judas is believed to have been written around 150 CE, with the surviving Egyptian Codex, which is the only copy dating from the late 3rd century CE. This writing should not be a part of the New Testament canon due to its date. Example number 8, the Gospel of Thomas. A Google search reveals the following. The Gospel of Thomas is generally dated to the mid to late 2nd century, around 135 to 200 CE. While some scholars suggest an earlier date, with some material possibly predating the canonical Gospels, the majority view is that it was written after them. This writing should not be a part of the New Testament canon due to its date. This video does not consist of academic scholarship in canonization. However, it does provide a simple method to aid in navigating extra-biblical books and determining which ones are authentic.